Hello everyone, this is the Focus Weekly with me, Fairmark. Now today we're discussing about the export of horticultural and fresh produce into European markets, a huge opportunity for small-scale farmers. That discussion is coming up next. It will be both insightful and informative, so stay tuned. This is the Focus Weekly with me, Fairmark. My guest today is the Chief Executive Officer of two companies, Fair-Mark and Tuminda. His name is Clarence Mwale. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, before we get into the meat of the matter today, let's get a quick overview of who Fair-Mark and Tuminda are.
Fairmark is a company that is helping farmers to meet compliance, to be compliant and to meet requirements for various markets. We started off with the EU in the UK, where we're producing in Africa, and farmers have to meet specific requirements for that market. So as Fairmark, we help farmers to meet all the needs, all the things that are required by the government, the regulations, the private voluntary standards, and all of that. And then out of that, we realized that there was still a big void in the marketing space, how many companies are aggregating produce out of Zimbabwe for small and medium farms into those markets. That's how we came about with Tuminda. So Tuminda being a Shona word, meaning a group of small farms. Our primary focus is small farms, small to medium enterprise farms.
What we often hear, or the impression that has been created, is that farmers in Zimbabwe, particularly small-scale and resettled farmers, can't export to Europe because of sanctions. Is that true?
We as a company have never been affected by sanctions. From our experience, the markets have different regulations, the market have different demands. Most of it is private and voluntary standards. Part of it is regulatory issues to do with phytosanitary requirements for specific countries, to do with maximum residue levels. As long as a farmer meets that, they have access to those markets. We have never failed to export because of what are called sanctions. We have never failed to send produce for one farmer because of that. So the answer is no, we can export out of Zimbabwe.
These regulations, how stringent are they? And what are they? What is the crux of them? What is the main thing behind them?
The minimum thing is good agricultural practices, where the markets are looking at how the world is organized now. They try to come up with a tool that works as a navigation process to manage or to unify all production processes around the world. So Global Gap is one of them. Once you get Global Gap certified, it's recognized everywhere on the planet. And you can, as soon as you produce that certificate, it gives the consumers and the customers that confidence and assurance of food safety, good agricultural practices. And the next one that the markets are now also looking for is a social practice standard, where they're looking at how you look after your workers, how your ethical practices for your businesses are set up, and it's called SEDEX and SMETA. So through Fairmark, we help our farmers to meet those as a minimum. You will find other markets that will require more than just Global Gap and SMETA. We also cater for that. So it is I would say good agricultural practices and good ethical practices are something that any business should be able to do anyway. If you are a farmer, you need to be able to record your plant protection products. You need to be able to record your fertilizers. You need to have a reason why you are applying this chemical on this day based on data. And it only makes sense as well as the ETI, the ethical compliance. You need to pay your workers. You cannot use child labor. You cannot use bonded labor. That's what the markets are asking for. And as long as you achieve that, the markets are happy to do business with you.
I would imagine these certifications, meeting these standards, is an added cost. Does it justify it?
It justifies it. If you look at the prices that are paid in those markets, and you look at the prices that we get for farming for our local market, it's very different. One, you get higher prices and you get specific products that you're growing. Two, if you grow for this market, it's very limited. We don't eat some of the products that we are exporting into into the EU, for example, or UK, Munch 2 and sugar snap peas, very few people will go into a supermarket here and buy Munch 2 and sugar snap peas. We have got our own kinds of food. So if you can grow that for a market that is willing to pay the price for it, and all they ask for is a few things for you to put a few things in place, I think it's worth it. It's been worth it for our farmers. It's definitely been worth it for us. It is also worth it for the whole country to bring in new money, to bring in forex.
On average, I mean, how long would it typically take for a small-scale farmer to be certified?
About 3 months.
3 months?
Yes.
In my mind, I was imagining that, a couple of years. But
about 3 months. So the minimum is 3 months. Depending on the infrastructure that is already existing, the standard is always looking at the situation of a farmer and the size of a farmer. So when you go to a small scale farm, you're not looking to see the same things that you find on a large scale commercial farm, where sometimes plant protection products need a whole room to keep on a big commercial farm. But if you're a small scale farmer and you can use a metal trunk for that, it still ticks the box. So through Fairmark, because of experience that we have in the industry and working with different kinds and different levels of farmers, and having worked with the standard for a long time, we know how to advise the farmers to suit every particular business to meet the required minimum.
Very quickly, how many farmers are you working with? Across the two companies.
With Fairmark, we work with over 300 farms in 6 countries in Africa. With Tuminda, we've just recently started, so we've exported this year for about 27 farms. So 27 to 30 farms with Tuminda. We're looking to increase that number to 5,000 by 2024.
Very ambitious target, but certainly we will wish you the best on that. We need to take a break and come back and continue this discussion. It is the Focus Weekly. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Focus Weekly continues. Clarence, before we went to the break, you made a very bold and a very ambitious sort of projection that 5,000 small-scale farmers by 2024. A couple of questions. Number one, why small-scale farmers?
Because small-scale farmers do not have access to what the large commercial farmers have. They do not have access to the platforms that the large commercial farmers have. They do not have anyone willing to look. They do not have that many companies willing to listen to them, look after them, train them, bring them up to standard. So we have chosen small-scale farmers because we believe that the commercial farms are already taken care of. If we find a commercial farm that wants to work with us, even better, because our small-scale farmers can then feed into the commercial farm, and we can have a good kind of diversification where a big commercial farm can support the small-scale farmers through technical advice, through market advice, and they can export through them. But we chose small-scale farmers because no one else is choosing them. So we've decided it's hard work to work with small-scale farmers. We have decided to take that hard work and make it our problem.
Again, information or the impression that has been created is that in agriculture, scale is king. And so if I'm putting myself in the shoes of a small-scale farmer, can I be viable and profitable in these markets?
If you grew 1 hectare of maize for sustenance, and we come to you and we give you 1 hectare of Munch 2 and sugar snap peas, for example, to commercialize it, you are paid a good price for that. You can still grow your maize or buy your maize for sustenance and make a business out of your small farm. So we think, we feel that small-scale farmers, if they come in their numbers and we put them together, they can surpass the numbers and volumes that the commercial farmers can do. For example, our model is to target where we want 1,000 hectares of peas. We would rather work with 1,000 small-scale farmers with a hectare each that they look after perfectly and with everything that they have, than go to one big commercial farmer who is just going to spray and do mass production. So we find that the markets that we're targeting are also happy to work with produce that has been grown, homegrown, we can say, that has been grown by people that give it care, by people whose lives depend on it, who will pay school fees of their children out of that small hectare. So we have found markets that are willing to listen to that are willing to work with that, and that are willing to help the small-scale farmers.
What role do you play, if any, in then supporting? You talk about, say, 1,000 small-scale farmers. The sort of crops that you need to grow here require irrigation, for instance. So to enable them to have, a big farmer will have a dam and probably all the infrastructure. These small-scale farmers, how do you assist them to get them up there?
Okay, so when you're doing horticulture, it's standard. You need water. We've made partnerships with companies, different companies. One of the companies we're working for is Marka Irrigation. Working with is Marka Irrigation, where we have come up with irrigation solutions that are cheap and affordable for small-scale farmers. And then we would use a specific model where we contract the farmer. The farmer gets equipment from a partner company. We export their products, and from the proceeds, they pay off the infrastructure, the irrigation, the inputs, or whatever it may be that they would like to borrow. So we keep knocking on doors to make partnerships, to form partnerships. We believe that we cannot do it all alone by ourselves. We keep trying to forge partnerships with banks, with NGOs, with embassies, with private companies, with whoever we can work with to try and help small-scale farmers. Yeah.
Again, this story is that, because of land reform, Zimbabwean, farmers become small-scale. Other countries have perhaps overtaken us. I'll give the example. We're often told that, flowers, for instance, to Europe, now countries like Ethiopia and Kenya have taken our market. So when we look at produce like this, are the markets still there? Or, because I'd imagine across Africa, there are farmers who are also looking into those very same markets to supply them. So can we compete?
We can compete. We have been competing. If you look at it, the land redistribution process only disturbed things. It didn't stop the demand for Zimbabwean produce. What has happened is we haven't produced, we haven't complied. That's why we haven't accessed those markets. But if we produce, if we comply, if we meet the requirements of the markets, we can compete. So Global Gap gives you competitiveness. SMETA gives you market competitiveness. If you farm the right products, the right quality, the market is always looking to buy from you. It doesn't matter if you're coming out of Zimbabwe. We just come from a trip in Hong Kong. We found Zimbabwean blueberries in Hong Kong supermarkets. So we can compete. There's a big gap for us.
And there's, I would imagine, a big enough cake for all those farmers across the African continent.
There is a massive cake for everyone.
Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of getting up to standards and getting the requisite skills.
Yes, and stop making excuses.
Clarence, we need to take another short break. We'll come back and finish off this discussion. Very exciting, very insightful. Clarence Mwale is the Chief Executive Officer of Fair-Mark and Tuminda. We're talking about exports and getting farmers ready to capitalize and feed into the export markets in Europe, but also emerging markets in the Far East. Stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. The discussion continues. Now, Clarence, you obviously through Fairmark do work elsewhere across the continent. And before we went to the break, I did ask if there's opportunity for African farmers. Do you see this sort of sector getting these sort of certifications as a gateway, as the next big thing in the agricultural sector?
It's certainly the next biggest thing. It shouldn't be up for debate. It should be something that we should try to achieve at national level, where we get our farmers to meet these international levels so that we can become competitive. It has previously been worked on business to business in private businesses, but if we could do it at government level, at national level, it gives us even more of that competitive edge, where we've got the land, we've got the farmers, we've got capacity. We just need to train our farmers. We need to meet the standards. We need to meet the requirements. And I think there's a lot of the market is vast. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for every size scale farmer. We just need to go and grab that opportunity.
What is very important and a critical element of all these standards is the issue of environment, of sustainability. as a nation, do you think we are conscious enough and are preparing ourselves for this reality that is coming, where ultimately or eventually they won't buy produce from us if we are not environmentally compliant?
Through Fairmark, we've been involved in a few programs where foreign embassies, foreign governments, delegations are trying to help create a local standard that then forms a first stepping stone for achieving an international standard. For example, if we came up with our own local good agricultural practice standard that our supermarkets recognize, that is retail driven in our own country, for that, if a farmer complies with that, for them to be able to scale that up and reach the international standard should be easier enough. So we still have a long way to go as a country. We still have a long way to go as a nation. But I believe that if we focus on it, it's very much doable. If we accept it, if we don't, the definition of complying is just to comply. You know, often we go there and we try to challenge why we have to comply with this. And then we try to make ourselves the victim. Oh, you're asking of this of us because we are Zimbabweans. But everybody else is doing it. So Global Gap, for example, is not only asked for of a Zimbabwean farmer. Everyone around the world has to get Global Gap. Everyone around the world has to get smarter to be able to supply on the international markets. If we stopped questioning it and we worked on how we could comply with it together, then we can certainly achieve it.
Indeed. What are some of the niche products or some of the products that you as a company are specializing in, and where you see that this is where the biggest potential is for a nation like Zimbabwe?
Okay, so this year we've done a few lines. We've done Monster Sugar Snap Peas for the EU. We've done avocado, Hass avocado for the EU and the Middle East. We have demands, we have orders for citrus, blueberries. We've already started working on that for the next coming couple of years, because it takes a little bit for a little bit of time for citrus to come into production. We're also trying to work with organizations that can help, private or public organizations that can help resuscitate some of the crops that haven't been given care in the last few years. Like there's a lot of citrus plantations that could be resuscitated, a lot of avocado plantations that could be resuscitated. So we've got a list of products that our markets are asking for. We are also targeting a niche market for organic produce and fair trade certified produce. So that's where we are going, where organic products are specific for specific retailers and specific groups of people that want to eat more healthier. So we are targeting that as well, for the EU, for this continent, and for Asia as well.
And they attract a premium. I mean, in terms of pricing,
they definitely attract a higher premium in the pricing. If you go to Woolworths in South Africa, you pay more for organic bread than you do for regular bread. Yeah,
but they are also feasible, and in terms of actually being able to grow and produce them organically is feasible and within the reach of particularly small-scale farmers?
Small-scale farmers particularly, because most of them cannot afford plant protection products anyway and synthetic fertilizers. So if we teach them the traditional methods, it would benefit them in the sense that the market is looking for that, and then they don't have to fork out as much money as they would do with conventional farming.
Indeed.
For inputs.
Going forward, do you see a stage where perhaps this whole organic movement, organic production, outstrips or perhaps matches synthetic and these conventional fertilizers that we've?
I think it will be a long time before we can talk about organic products competing with conventionally grown products, because organic is much more complicated. Conventional farming is easier to control and manage. The yield is always higher. However, the reward in conventional in organic farming is worth it. Is worth people trying. I don't think it will be another few years before we can start comparing the two in terms of volumes of the market. I think there will always be conventional farming. conventional farmed products more than organic grown products on the market. Yeah.
Another sort of futuristic sort of thing, and perhaps questioning why or at what point should our focus now be on the domestic markets? So we're growing this, well certified, properly done produce for Europe and the Far East. At what stage will it become viable economically for us to do it domestically? Is it because we don't have the buying power, or?
I think it's two things. It's the buying power. It's also, we don't really consume most of the things that we grow for other countries. So we are growing these for business. If we look at what we grow for our own consumption, I think we are doing very well as a country. We grow a lot of wheat, we grow a lot of maize, and that is really what we eat on a daily basis. So in terms of whether or not we can change the diet, that is a far-fetched dream. But I think if we know where to draw the line, if we know where to separate business and self sustenance, then we can achieve what we want to achieve. Yeah.
If I'm a farmer, I'm watching this or listening to this and thinking, you know what, here's an opportunity for me. How would I start preparing myself or getting myself ready to say, look, I ultimately want to go into these markets?
My advice is don't wait. I mean, as long as you've got land and water, give us a call. Let's start farming. Right now we're busy with summer planting, summer cropping season. So if you contacted us today, we can do an assessment of your farm. If we think that you've got enough water, enough capacity, we will give you a program. If you have plans for the future, you need to start looking at responsible use of plant protection products, responsible use of fertilizers. That's what the market is looking for. If you employ people, you need responsible employment of people, no underage people, no forced labor, no child labor. That's what affects a lot of people in the international market.
How are those sort of things audited and verified? Because I would imagine in Ndirikwam, Zarabani, for lack of a better term, who is going to know whether I underpaid or paid my workers on time? So
when we do these audits, we actually come physically on the site. We interview the workers, we check the records, we interview management. It's a very thorough interview process, audit process. So if you do have child labor, if you do have forced labor, it will be very easily picked up. So the best thing is just not to do it.
And these checks are, I would imagine, regular and ongoing?
The checks are annual.
Okay.
Annual. So every year you get checked.
All right.
Yeah.
Just as we're talking, and I'll put it to you now. Looking forward, we've got a record number of tobacco farmers, but depending on who you speak to, there is a big movement globally to say, you know what, let's ban smoking, let's ban tobacco products altogether. Is this an opportunity, do you think, for a lot of those farmers who are small scale to say, you know what, let's pivot and start exploring this and help you achieve your 5,000 farmer target?
For us as a business, if the market is asking for tobacco, we will grow tobacco as a business. If the market is asking for blueberries, we will grow blueberries from a business point of view. If you buy my tobacco, and after you smoke your cigarette and you decide that you want to live healthy, or we will still sell you the healthiest foods. We will sell you blueberries. So you can smoke our tobacco and eat our blueberries and maintain your health. I think that if you look at it from a business point of view, it shouldn't matter what you're farming. As long as you have a market for it, as long as it's making business sense, we should farm tobacco if we should. China is the biggest consumer of our tobacco. If China wants to consume tobacco from us, let's farm tobacco for China. If China also wants blueberries from us, let's farm blueberries for China. That's how I look at it from a business point.
Indeed. The success of the tobacco industry has been on this whole contract model, which is what you are doing as well. Going forward, is this the future of agriculture in a market like Zimbabwe?
Yes, because you need aggregators. We can all go to the airport and try to ship a small bag of a product. We need aggregators. That's where we're helping, where we're coming in to aggregate and go to a market and say, listen, we've got 200 tons of this. Can we sell it to you? We cannot do it individually. We just need to get together, work in groups, work in unison, and we can achieve.
Fantastic. We must end the discussion here, but only because we're out of time. I want to thank you, Clarence, for being a fantastic guest, for sharing those insights.
Thank you.
And I hope that someone out there has been inspired and has learned that indeed there are markets out there that can be capitalized if we apply and adhere to good agricultural practices. This is the Focus Weekly. My name is Farai Mwakutuya. Thank you so much for tuning in. The details for you to like, share, comment, follow on the various social media platforms are on your screens right now. We encourage you to do so and to do that. My name is Farai Mwakutuya. I'll be back again next time. Be sure to join me then.